Hello and welcome. Today I'm sharing my top GeoGuessr tips for beginner to intermediate players that want to start pitting those difficult rounds and winning more duels. I'll be focusing on the most high yield, consistent clues, starting with the easier ones and moving towards more advanced ones as we go along. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Tip number one is to check the direction of the sun. In this case, we can see that the sun is in the south, so we're going to be in the northern hemisphere. And in this case, the sun is in the north, so we know that we're in the southern hemisphere. It may seem obvious, but even advanced players forget to check the sun and end up sending the wrong hemisphere. But if it's cloudy or the sun is in the east and the west, and you can't tell if it's north or south, then don't trust it, because it can be deceiving. Tip number two is to learn to recognize scripts. So this one is the Latin script. You'll often see that in Europe, the Americas, Africa, and Oceania. This is Cyrillic, which you'll see in Russia, Ukraine, some of the Balkans, and Western Asia. In southern India, you won't see a bar going all the way across as often, but in northern India, you'll see this bar going all the way across all the letters. In Bangladesh, a lot of letters have left-facing triangles. This is Chinese, which you'll mostly see in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and parts of Malaysia. Korean can be recognized by these circles. And Japanese uses a couple of different scripts, but learning to recognize them can make it much easier to guess that country. Only a few countries on GeoGuessr speak Arabic, so if you see Arabic, you're most likely to be in the United Arab Emirates, Palestine, Jordan, or Qatar. This is Hebrew, which you'll pretty much only see in Israel. And most of the countries in Southeast Asia have their own script. For example, this is Thai. Clue number three is going to be to look at the cars, driving direction, and road markings. So this map shows which countries drive on what side of the road. So for example, combining this with clue number one, you can see that if we're in the southern hemisphere and we're driving on the right, which is in red, then we're much more likely to be in South America than we are to be in Africa or Oceania. Driving direction can also be useful for some difficult 50-50s. For example, here we are in Thailand, and you can see that we're driving on the left. And here we are at a similar looking location in Cambodia, but we're driving on the right. European license plates have this blue strip on the left. In some countries, the blue strip is on both sides, for example, France and Albania. That's also true in Italy, but the front plates will be a lot shorter. There's also a lot of Fiats. In the United Kingdom, the front plates are the typical European ones, but the back plates are yellow. This isn't true in Ireland, which just uses the standard European plates. In the blur, you can see that Malaysian license plates have two sections and Indonesian license plates have three. You can remember this because there's two sections to Malaysia, the Peninsula, and Borneo, and Indonesia has many. Road markings are super useful. For example, here we are in the United States, and you can see that we have yellow center line and white outer lines. Most of the Americas use this pattern with yellow in the middle and white on the outside. Be careful though, because you can also find yellow center lines in Europe. For example, sometimes in Norway or Finland. Here we are in Australia, and you can see that we have all white lines, and we're driving on the left. This one is Europe, and you can see we have all white lines again, but we're driving on the right. In South Africa, the outer lines are yellow and the inner line is white. This one is Malaysia, and you can see that we're driving on the left. We have all white center lines, and it's a double line in the middle. These Polish lines look very similar, but one thing to note about Poland is that the lines are usually thicker than other European countries. Tip number four is going to be to focus on the vegetation and landscape. A mistake that I often see from beginner players is rushing down the road looking for a flag or a domain and not taking in the landscape and vegetation. While it can be useful to look for easy clues while you're just starting out, it can also be a crutch that prevents you from learning the more difficult clues like vegetation and landscape. So I recommend before you move to look around, and that way while you're moving down the road, you can be processing the information that you saw during your first look around. This is especially true in competitive, where it can take a long time to load as you move, and so you want to be thinking during that time, rather than realizing that you ran out of time and you haven't decided on what continent it is. A great example is the savanna landscape, especially with these typical African trees. These are Scots pines, which are very common in the north of Europe. If you don't see any of these, you probably shouldn't guess something like Finland, for example. Vegetation can also be useful for getting very specific regions. For example, this is a Paraná pine, which mostly grows in the state of Paraná in Brazil and the states around it. This super cool cactus is a blue myrtle, and it basically exclusively grows in San Luis Potosi and Mexico. These are southern pines, which are very common in the south of the US, and if you don't see any of these, it's a good clue that you're further north. Tip number five is going to be to learn a couple of metas. I understand if you don't like learning copyright or Google car metas, but learning a couple of basic ones can help you make much better guesses and free up your capacity to think about region guessing or other more advanced clues. For example, here we are in Ghana, and if we look at the roof rack, we can see that we have this black tape, so we immediately know we're in Ghana. We can use that extra capacity to focus on other clues. For example, learning that Ghana cars often have this paneled pattern. You can see there's two of them here. Or if we're looking for specific regional clues, like this sign back here has the name of the town, which we can start scanning for. And there it is. So we were able to make a much better guess by using the meta there. Another useful meta can be copyright. For example, Germany just got new coverage recently in 2023. So if you're in Europe and you're not sure if it's Germany, and you see a copyright before 2023, you can eliminate it off your list. Copyright is usually easiest to see in the sky, but if it's a cloudy day like this, you can also look inside the Google car, and there it is right there. 2023. So we can guess Germany here. Tip number 6 is going to be to use the Plunkett guide. When you're learning and practicing, there's no better guide than Plunkett. They have every country on GeoGuessr and it's updated all the time. If you go into a specific country, you can see it's broken down by high-level clues that'll help you identify the country, but then also regional and specific clues, and then finally a spotlight, which is going to tell you a very specific clue for a very specific region. Here we can see, for example, that South Africa drives on the left, and they have that road marking that I mentioned earlier. And then the final tip, number 7, is to just play a lot. A lot of the times, the most impressive guesses you'll see on YouTube, for example, when a pro player just knows an area based on vibes, and they've learned those vibes by just playing a lot. They've seen a lot of similar locations, they know what to look for because they've seen it a lot of times, and that's how they're able to very quickly know exactly where they are. And the only way to learn that is by playing a lot. Plunkett has this great map directory, which will tell you maps for specific regions if you want to practice those, or thematic maps that might help you learn a specific theme. And make sure that you're always having fun. GeoGuessr is a fun game, and you get better every single time you play, so you don't need to feel like every single round you're learning some advanced tip. Sometimes it's enough to just kind of get a feel for each round and move on. Hope you learned something from that, and please share any tips that you have in the comments if you think I left something out. If you did learn something, like and subscribe so I know to make more videos like this. Let me know if you want to see more advanced tips in the future, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.